Meeting of the Nelson County Board of Education. It is Thursday, August 3rd, 2017 at approximately 5 p.m. And are there any changes to the agenda?
No, we're going to go right like we are.
Right like we are. Very good. Well, welcome to the table.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good. All right, so first up, we're going to talk about efficient resource management, the construction update with Tim Hawksman.
I have Steve Ward and Studio Kramer join me for the first part of this.
Thanks, Steve.
I have him tag out to John, CMTA, in a minute or two. We've got a couple of change order logs. I'm going to let Stephen go through with you. In a nutshell, though, as you all know, school starts in 6 days. Both projects are substantially complete, as we've talked about now for a little while. There are a few odds and ends, loose ends. We're still tying up, but nothing that will impact opening those buildings. I know DCD coordinated with Thomas Nelson staff training on the projector and the new screen and all that. That occurred, I believe it was yesterday. I was included on all those emails, but again, projects are substantially complete. I met with the ELC folks yesterday, and they're excited about the numbers that they're seeing, that they think they're going to have in the center, and so all is well. Having said that, I'll turn the change order log over to Stephen. We'll just focus on the ones that we've obviously that you've yet to approve. Most of those we've talked about, and the board's already taken action. We have a couple for that project there that Stephen can talk with you about.
Yep, the first one up there is the Early Learning Center. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. The work in the mechanical closets, I think we've talked about before. Those change orders should be coming to you for this meeting. It was adding some ceilings in closets to satisfy Logan Spalding at Code Review. There were things he asked for during the final inspections. Number 14, we talked about last time I was here, I believe. A $350 change order was logged onto the Thomas Nelson job and should have been on this job. So we're just changing that back. So those are the only two that really there's much to talk about. I think the only other one is number 12. Tim just pointed out to me before we came in that the $1,700 part of that you approved at the June meeting, so the $7,000 part of that is the one yet to be approved.
For both of these projects, I sent an email today to all the parties involved and asked them, these schools are going to be open, we're going to be using these spaces on August 9th. I really would like to be able to bring to you all on the night of the 15th of August all remaining change order paperwork. And there's no guarantee of that. As you know, the paperwork lags. And sometimes we were just talking before we walked in here, we're waiting on contractors to submit paperwork for, that we have one that, they may never ask for the money for. And it's not a significant amount of money, but that does happen occasionally. So if we have anything that drags on, it will be for those reasons, because hopefully the work will be done. It'll just be paperwork and things of that nature. Carl, if you could bring up the...
Before we leave this one, I do want to, just because it's been a while since we talked about number 12 there, RFP 10 modification of steel rail design. That one's been on the list for several months, but the amounts of money trickled in, and it does amount to a good amount of money, so I wanted to remind everybody what that was. There was the access to the playground and the rail design, and all of that had to be redesigned to satisfy requirements of ECHRS. So that was a redesign specifically for that purpose.
If you'll notice the very bottom number there in the fourth column over, $31,000 total in change orders, 1.3% of the total original construction cost. Of course, we had 5% set aside as we're required to in contingency, and the remainder that's left will be set aside for the next project. Whatever that project ends up being, that will be set aside for that project. So, Carl, if you can go to the Thomas Nelson document. And I'll let Stephen talk through this this one as well.
Sure. Thomas Nelson was a little bit further behind than early learning in finishing up, so there's more of these that are still noted in red, but I don't know that there's very much question about most of them. The number 5, I think we've talked about multiple times. I don't know yet whether painting is going to be required. I need to get back out there now that they're complete and look at it to see if we need to paint it or can just leave it raw, and that would save some money. Number 7, there was a change order request, but during installation of the projection screen, we heard that there may have been some issues that they encountered in that installation. I don't know what that is going to mean yet, but we do know that the contractor had to deal with some conditions they didn't expect. The rest of them, I think, are all pretty clear for me to recommend approval.
And the one we were just talking about, the 4 prep, the last item on the list there, that's one that we've authorized. The contractor has done the work, but we're waiting on the paperwork. So it's a $775 item. They may have decided it's not worth the paperwork, but the work's been done. So we'll get all that paperwork to you hopefully and get it all approved and wrap these projects up on August 15th, I hope.
Great.
Any questions on those 2 projects? And hopefully, my goal would be for this, at the work session, this to be the last time we have this section of the work session meetings, because again, those projects are complete. If you have questions or want to bring something up, would like us to discuss it, we will, of course, but as a regular item, I don't see it continuing after this session. So, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Great job.
John Gasser with CMTA Engineering is going to join us now and talk to you about the project that's going on throughout the district. They were in our building this building here, changing light bulbs throughout. I know Mr. Brown got to see some of the work that's gone on at Bloomfield Middle School a couple of days ago.
Was very impressed with what they did in the gym, specifically there, where they changed out where the 2 old units were in the top and the corners, who were always very, very, very loud, and I've never seen one that didn't leak. And they've changed it and made it very efficient, looks fantastic in there.
Yeah, it's been a very productive summer. Things have gone extremely smooth. Like I've always said, custodians, principals, staff have been great to work with. So now I get to show you some pictures of some spaces that have been cleaned up that, you know, at one point looked a little rough, but, you know, anytime you got a full renovation, that's going to happen. But so cleanup is fully underway. So the building is kind of divided up into 2 parts. You got the classroom wings on the bottom half and the gym and cafeteria on the upper half. So the bottom half is fully padded out with ceiling tile, was being waxed today. We've got a couple small ceiling spaces where we need to reinstall speakers and fire alarms, but other than that, you know, if we had to have school tomorrow, we could have it tomorrow. So we're in very good shape there. Let's see what we got next year. So a couple more clean spaces. The do not enter wet wax sign there on the admin space. So we are in the and that was a couple days ago. We actually had our substantial walkthrough with Kevin and Todd on Monday of this week, and basically put a punch list together for not only ourselves but all of our subcontractors, and we'll be working on punching those items here in the next few weeks. So here you're seeing the cooling tower. Previously this was all dug up pipe that had yet to be buried, so actually it looks a lot better than that now. It's actually all been gravelled as of yesterday, so that's in good shape. We'll repair the fence and should have that all cleaned up here in the next day or 2. So there's the gym units that we were able to put in the closet there. Doesn't look like much, but to us, you know, it's nice to have those there. I know Kevin and his staff are happy that, you know, if something were to go wrong or if they need to service those, they're now on the ground. They can get to them. They got plenty of space to work on them, as opposed to renting a lift to work on during the middle of a ball game or something. So So that's that last picture. So what, you know, you used to see 2 large HVAC units hanging up.
Looks great.
It turned out real nice. You know, to be able to do stuff like that for a school that wasn't designed to have duct routed like that, it was cool. I think we're all happy with the result there, so. Appreciate everybody's cooperation.
Well, thank you for what you've done.
Sure. Now it's time to start realizing some savings, so we'll be tracking those and be back in a year to show you how well we did. Yes, the good news. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Any more construction?
No, I'm sorry,
More
no.
Construction, okay.
Uh-uh.
So the next up is the pre-audit AFR. I think this is a decision paper.
It is. You know, we talked about, I was hoping to bring this to you on July 18th, and it just didn't work out. The timing just didn't allow for that, but we were able to finish it a few days ago, and I want to highlight just a few fields, and then I'll be glad to try to answer questions if you have any. The center column, the year-to-date column, that's the report, page 2 there, it begins, or page 1, I guess, begins the general fund. And you see that we began the year with $2,172,000 and change in the general fund. And that's important to note because we'll show you in just a minute or two what we ended the year with in the general fund, and it's good news. I've also highlighted for you the distilled spirits revenue, and the reason for that highlight, I don't remember if we've given you the detail on this or not, but I know that I watch tax receipts very close. As a matter of fact, speaking of taxes, you'll be interested to know that we received our tax rate certification yesterday from the Department of Education, and I'm working through those numbers now to make sure they are what I think they should be. And if that checks out, the calendar is going to allow us to have a levy or have that hearing and that tax vote on the night of the regular working session in September, on September 7th, which means you don't have to have a special called meeting. You'll be able to follow your normal schedule to do that. When the time comes, you may want to adjust the time of that meeting. I know in the past we've done that. So having said that, the distilled spirits portion, you see we collected $2,290,000. I have that highlighted, and if you look directly to the left of that number, you'll see that we were budgeted to receive $2,400,000. Well, distilled spirits are handled differently than your other tax bases. Up until this year, our distilled spirits assessment was always an estimate. The revenue cabinet would estimate what our distilled spirits assessment would be. That's what they did last year. And they're usually pretty close. They work with the distilleries to arrive at those estimates, and they're usually very close. It's a few dollars off, but it's pretty close. This year, there was about a $14 million drop in our assessment, our actual assessment from the estimate, which means we lost $110,000. And I just wanted to point that out to you. It's not that somebody didn't pay their bill. Their assessment was an estimate, and they paid all the distilleries. We have 5 that pay taxes to us, and it was due to that drop in assessment. Now, the good news is, effective with the certification we received yesterday, going forward, beginning with this year, distilled spirits taxes are based on actuals. First year, and all the time I've been here, never understood why they used estimates anyway. They had the time to use actuals. Now they're going to do it, so we have that won't happen to us again. And I can tell you the preliminary numbers on distilled spirits assessments are significant growth. So there will be some growth in that revenue stream for fiscal 18. Carl, if you'll go to the next page, or we've got another highlighted number there. Let's see. That is revenue in lieu of taxes. You all may have you may have heard us talk about, again, distilled spirits. You know, the county entered into some agreements with the distilleries for the construction of warehouses, okay? And there were industrial revenue bonds issued, which essentially waives the tax. And it's complicated, but it's still a win for the school district. And in this case, Jim Beam voluntarily is sending us a check of $5,000 for each of those new warehouses. And for fiscal 17, they had 5 of the new warehouses open. So that's what that $25,000 figure is that you've not seen previously. In fiscal 18, that number will grow because they will have additional new warehouses that are a part of that industrial revenue bond piece that will receive that $5,000 a piece on. That makes sense to everybody? So that was a new revenue line item. Carl, I guess we can go to the next page. Let's see, you can see I've got the SEEK highlighted there. You'll see that we received $15,173,582. SEEK continues, if you look at the last several years, it drops every year, and it is projected to drop again for fiscal 18 to about 14.7 million, which means in order to break even, you have to make that up somewhere, and the only place you all can make that up is in taxes. Our current SEEK estimate for this year that we've begun, about 14.7 million, but we collected 15.1, just under 15.2 last year. We'll go to the next page, Carla. Looks like I have anything highlighted there. You can see total revenues of $40 million. That includes beginning balance. We'll go on to the next page. And here's your expenses. This format of this report is just like your draft, your tentative, and your final working budget. If you look at the top there, you see instruction. You see that we had $14,598,000 and change in salaries and instruction. Does everybody see that? That's your teachers and your instructional assistants. And as you go through those various departments, it's a different type of folk. You get into there's school administrative support, district administrative support, or people in this building, the superintendent, classified staff around here. And if you'll scroll on to the next page, Carla, you've got their school administrative support, that's principals' offices. Business support is HR, finance, and technology. You've got plant operations, that's where we pay all the utilities, and custodians are paid out of that. You pay all your utilities if you have construction, if you have a repair, for example, the work that has gone on recently in the general fund, whether it's any type of construction related work would show up there. Transportation, you can see that we spent a little over bottom section there, you see a little over $1.2 million in salaries in the transportation department. Most of that, of course, is your bus drivers. If you'll scroll to the next page, Carla. And I've also highlighted for you our fund transfer piece this year. What we've done, I've worked with our IT folks. We have set aside through that fund transfer piece, money for, we know we've got some serious IT needs going forward in the next couple of years, whether it's teacher workstations, continuing to try to provide Chromebooks and devices like that. As a matter of fact, we just placed an order for some devices in Nelson County High School recently, and that's what that money will be used for. We've set it aside as additional match to KETS funds, and that's where that money is sitting now. So we made that transfer to allow for that, for those future technology purchases. And the bottom number there, you'll see, well, you could see, now you can't. Can you get that off the screen, Carl? Or you can just scroll up. There we go. $2,430,925.52. So we began the year with $2,172,000. We ended the year with $2,430,000. Now that's an unaudited version. We'll have an audit that begins. They're already, I think, making appointments to start in the schools. So there'll be some minor changes. I don't expect any significant changes to these numbers. There'll be a few tweaks. They'll find a check we received or a bill we paid that they want us to reclassify from one year to the next. I don't expect it to be any kind of substantial material change to these numbers, though. So we had growth of $258,000 in the general fund, but I always want to remember to point out or remind you that our SEEK dollars are projected to drop by about $400,000 next year. But we did have growth this year. It was a very positive year for us. Carla, if you'll scroll to the next page. The next few pages are your grant funds And we'll just scroll through that pretty quickly. I don't think I had anything highlighted unless you have questions. I will stop right there. You'll see that we had year-to-date actual grant fund revenue of about $4.5 million. That's Title I, that's Part B, ESS, that's Title II, teacher quality. That's all sorts of programs like that, and those totaled in fiscal 17 about $4.6 million. In the next couple of pages are the corresponding expenses, and again, those are restricted funds. Those funds have to be spent on things that are appropriate within the guidelines of those grants. We'll just scroll on through there, Carl, and go on to the next fund. Capital outlay, again, is one of your capital funds. And this is where you receive money from the state based on the number of students in the school district. $417,000 in revenue. We receipt that in and we transfer it out over to the debt service fund, just like we've done the last 2 or 3 years. So if we'll scroll on down, so we receipt that in and then we transfer it out. There you'll see the transfer, and with leaving a zero balance in that fund. The next fund is your building fund. Here's where you receipt some more of your local tax money. You see that we put almost $3.8 million in local tax revenue in the building fund. Those are your 3 nickels. We set those aside, and you can only spend that on renovations, etc., new construction, renovation, bond payments, etc. If you'll scroll down, you'll see some state revenue and total revenue in the building fund of $4.6 million. You add to that the $400,000 in capital outlay, you got roughly $5 million. So we'll scroll to the next page. You see that we have transferred the $4.6 million in the building fund out, and it's going into the next fund, or the debt service fund. I know it gets confusing. If you'll scroll to the next page, Carla. This is your construction fund, where you've paid the bills for Thomas Nelson Phase 3 and the ELC, and also the project that John was talking about, the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract. Just to fast forward here, scroll to the bottom of this fund, keep going, go to the next page. Go to the next page, Carla, and I'm going to show you how much you spent in the construction fund this year on all those projects combined. $5,945,000. Everyone see that? Now that is offset by bond revenue. That's bond revenue. That you sell the bonds, the money goes in the account, and then we spend it out of this fund. We'll scroll to the next fund. We'll see where we make our debt service payments. And you'll see here that we receipted in $4.5 million from those other 2 funds. And if we'll go to the next page, we'll see where that goes out via debt service payments. And then we'll just look at one more fund, and this is food service. And we're back to some highlighted fields here. Our food service fund began the year with $542,000, and we're just going to fast forward to the bottom of that fund, bottom of the second page, I think, Carla. And you see we ended the year with $690,000. Again, now we did not charge indirect cost to the food service fund this year because we've talked in the last several months a couple of times about the need at Nelson County High School and a couple of other locations to upgrade some equipment. So we're trying to build up that fund. We've got a new food service director, and she and I have met 2 or 3 times about that. She's working on that as we speak, getting a plan together, what needs to be replaced and where, getting pricing, and at some point in the relatively near future, we'll be coming back to you folks with a plan as to how we plan to approach that. And the funds that, the growth in that fund will be used to pay for that. Okay? Any questions about the AFR? There's a few more pages related to fixed assets, etc., but unless you'll have questions. Again, general fund, we added about $238,000 to the bottom line, so it was a positive year for us, and I think we'll just continue to try to stay healthy. So things went well, I think.
Tim, what was spent for supplies? Why is that
Supplies includes food.
Oh, okay, 'cause
Yeah.
I thought that would be a different line item.
Now, food is, the object code for food is 0630, so it's included with supplies. So that does look a little odd unless you know that.
I thought, what do we buy for that kind of money?
Yeah.
Need a couple of chefs.
Yeah.
We need some shelves for that, buddy. Okay.
Any questions?
So now it looks like this is a decision paper, so we're going to need to approve this. So I'll need a motion to approve the attached pre-audit AFR for fiscal year 2017.
I'll make a motion on that.
Diane made the motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Dye second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, under college and career readiness, the summer school update with Ms. Brown.
Carla, if you'll go to slide 4. At the last working meeting, I brought you the numbers for the first 2 summer school sessions. This is session 3 that took place July 10th through the 21st. Again, we had a special education teacher, mathematics teacher. The total student attendance was 31 kids that attended for the 2-week session, and average daily attendance was 20. The total number of credits recovered in all 6 weeks was 122 half credits. So that would be 61 full credits. And then you have the breakdown of the schools. There were 65 half credits from Nelson County High School, which would equal 32 and a half wholes. Thomas Nelson had 12 and 6 wholes, and Horizons had 45 half credits for a total of 22.5. I am absolutely amazed that we were able to accomplish this. Very hard work from the students and very much dedication from our faculty. Our teachers worked very hard, and I think I told you the first session when we talked about this that you could go over there and hear a pin drop because everybody in the building was working very hard and they were very focused on the job in front of them. So I'm really happy with this number, and we will continue the work in the fall in intercession, and then again in the spring in another intercession, and hope to do summer school. I think this was a good model that worked well. We had a week break between each session, so that allowed the families to go on vacation and they could plan for that. And everything just worked out really well this year.
Good.
And then next, field trip request.
The next field trip request, both agriculture departments, FFA, from Thomas Nelson and Nelson County High School have requested that they go to the Kentucky State Fair. It's an overnight request. They won't be staying in a hotel. They're going to be staying close to their animals, I think, and close to whatever it is that they're going for judging. So they will have their advisors with them at all times, and we're talking 4 to 5 students, very small group, but they are going to participate in the State Fair, and I need an overnight approval for them.
So then we'll need a motion to approve the field trip request as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Ms. Dye made the motion.
Second.
Ms. Berry second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I hope they have a good time.
Yes.
I hope they win.
All right. And was it? Oh, I'm sure it is. So next is Nelson County Schools and Head Start. I think it's an agreement with Ms. Tiffany Clark.
Yes.
Hi, how are you all?
It is a moment or agreement between Nelson County Schools and Central Kentucky Head Start. And I move to, the movement is that Nelson County Board of Education would service special students with disabilities at the Head Start.
I thought we already approved this.
Last year, wasn't it?
Last year, can't do it every day.
Kept
I
doing
thought
it
we
every
did
year.
last time. We didn't do it
I think it was
last
like maybe.
That was an agreement that we would fill their spots first,
Oh, okay.
and it wasn't specific to special needs, that's what I remember.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
correct.
What she said.
Okay. So, she's got a better
Right,
memory.
second.
So is this a decision? It's not on the agenda as a decision?
It's for the 18th.
This is for the 18th.
Okay. Okay.
So she just brings it.
So she's just bringing
You
it to
just
our
let us know
attention.
ahead of time,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. All right. And then, so I guess that's it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and then, oh, the fun one, policy and procedure updates. Come on, Mr.
Throw
Morris.
stuff at me for 8.
Bob Morris,
Don't throw anything.
daggers.
I shared these with you guys, or I didn't, but our great assistant over there shared them with you earlier, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of them. But, so I'm going to flip through them pretty quickly. If there's something that you want to stop and talk about, please let me know. 99% of this is verbiage. It's the only real, and we'll get to it, we'll talk about it when we get there, the only real change in how we do something is going to be the calendar one, and that just requires us to get more community involvement for the calendar committee. So I'll run through them quickly. Again, just throw a candy bar or something if you want me to slow down. First one's English as second language. If you look on it, it's just verbiage, a lot of blue. This is where they've changed the verbiage. That goes for a couple of pages. Back several. Next one on page 73 is assessment. A couple of things I highlighted there. We already do this, but anytime we're doing assessment, we try to make sure we're not reducing or interfering with instructional time just for assessment. Also says, if you look down, second paragraph, if the school receives Title I funds, the district shall notify parents of the students attending the school at the beginning of the school year about assessment, and we're to share the results with our parents. And we do that as a habit already. Even Title I or not, we share with our parents. So it's really not anything different about how we operate. Page 76, the one I spoke to you at the beginning. This is one, I guess, if any, that's going to cause a little bit of practice change. We've always had a school calendar committee, but it requires us, as you see, a list of folks there that need to be part of that committee coming up. And it also requires 2 community members from local chamber of commerce, business, or tourism commission to make sure that they've got, there you go, so we talked about this earlier. Just really giving them opportunity to have some input, because some businesses, especially with big school systems, are affected by when school starts and stops. So just continues on page 77 through 78. Page 78, to point out to you, says calendar options. Beginning with the 2018-19 school year, when I first read this, I read it as we had to do something, but when you look at it, it says if you decide to do so, that you can have a variable calendar in closest days to August the 26th. So it's no requirement that makes us wait to that late in the month, but if you do so, then you can have a variable calendar, basically what it tells us. Any questions or concerns on any of that? 79 and 80, just a little bit of verbiage change. 79 changes GED to high school equivalency diploma. Page 80 takes out just one small paragraph there based on timeline and criteria procedures. Page 81 through, for the next couple of them, mainly deal with foster and homeless children. McKinney-Vento, Robbie could probably speak to that if you have questions on that. McKinney-Vento requires us to provide services to homeless children or to, children in foster care. We already do that by practice anyway, but this just lays out a little bit more procedures and requirements. Talks about even if their records aren't here yet, we have to go ahead and enroll them. Just they don't want those kids' lives being disrupted anymore than they already are. Continue to talk about homeless and foster children on page 83, and again, just talk about where you're required to enroll them right away and then get the records. Entrance age, we've already talked about that. In fact, we've already had practice with that. The entrance age, they're just now getting some of this updated, but we've discussed that quite a bit already, so I don't think there would be any
Attendance requirements on page 87, just think of note, if somebody, it's not mandatory for a child 5 years old to go to school, basically, but if they enroll them in school, they get a trial period of them being in, and once they get past that first 2 school calendar months, then they can't just pull them out, so then it becomes mandatory. So it's just to keep parents from bouncing them in and out, I think. Just, again, changing GED to high school diploma. Page 91, talking about custody of kids by the cabinet or foster, some of the same language changes on page 91 and 92 that was in the other. How about record release of those kids? Page 93, the district shall observe the rights of students to voluntarily engage in religious activities, express religious or political viewpoints while at school to the same extent and under circumstances that permit it for other expression of activities. So basically says they cannot be suppressed because of their political views or their religious views, but they don't have a right to be disruptive, just like you can express 96 addresses homeless students, again, down at the bottom, just a little bit of verbiage added there. Page 100 requires schools to, and which we've already had the requirement, but this speaks again of it, all schools, K-5, to have a wellness policy. We've done that for several years, and that's been in practice for several years. A little bit more definition on the wellness policies on 101 and 102. We have a wellness committee that speaks to that. Ms. Thompson, our food service director, leads our wellness committee. Then we have representatives from each of our schools. We've met at 3 times last year, and that is all part of this, just talking about making district wellness policies and school wellness policies. And we do have those in place in all of our K-5 schools. Page 105 through 106 is a lot of the repeat back of some of those others, talking about homeless children and foster children and the records requirements. It's just another place that's been brought in. Page 108, safety athletics. One thing of note there is it requires our coaches to be CPR trained and first aid trained. We've always done that by practice. KHSAA requires them to be also, so that's been done by practice for years. So it's really not a change in our practice, just another place that says it needs to happen. Page 110, back to religious views and political viewpoint. Again, just saying that will not be suppressed, but as you can say there, they're not allowed to make an endorsement of any particular religion or political view, but that can be part of the speech.
And also says obscene, vulgar, offensive, lewd, or indecent.
Yes, ma'am. It doesn't give them a license. It just doesn't suppress the...
License to be ugly.
Page 112, domestic dating violence and reporting. In a nutshell, not to read all that to you, it says that if we suspect domestic violence, we are to talk to that person about it and offer them help and offer them some place to go for it, not required to report it to the police without letting them know. Unless it's a child, then of course we have to report when it's a child. Page 114 is driver's license revocation. Just a short, small drop out of school there. They took that out, so just still have the right to revoke driver's license for them.
I think that's awesome.
I tell you what, it was the best weapons I had when I was a principal in high school, was to threaten that they couldn't have a driver's license. Page 118, visitors to schools. And this is something we've been committed as a district forever, but if you look at website accessibility also, it talks about that our website has to meet disability guidelines, ADA guidelines, and so forth. And that's, we talked about that last year with Mr. Coffin and all, and we do. And that's something that they make sure that we continue to do. Ratio staffing for preschool. This isn't changed, this verbiage a little bit. Basically talks about adults never left alone with more than 10 preschool children, and that's by policy and by practice already. All right, that's the ones that we had to run through from KSBA. The next one I have for you is we have alcohol and drug policy for the district. If you recall, several months ago, we changed it. I sent it to KSBA, sent it to the lawyers. They came back and said, okay, not allowed to do 100% because then it's not random. And they also said, by the way, if you leave out the list of drugs, then that takes away opportunity for this grant or that grant. And then they fixed a couple of places that just with the verbiage. So the really majority of it is verbiage change until you get to page 1 of 3 on the procedural part, where we had said 100%. We went back to them and said, okay, is 50% random enough? And they said yes. So if you look there, it says a minimum of 4 times per year in order to cover all athletic team season student drivers. During each testing cycle, there will be 50% of all student athletes on the team. So this is all the changes that we made before, but went back and changed it to 50%. So I think that gets us closer to where we want to be, having a real deterrent, but it also meets the legal things that we got to jump through too. Questions on any of this? Thank you. And I will, then this will have second reading basically, though we won't have to read them again unless you guys have questions. They'll be part of the agenda. So.
Okay, very good.
Next thing I have is no matter how many times we read a calendar, or we have calendar committees, as we talk about, we find something somewhere down the line. So we do have a change for you on a calendar that's already been approved. I'm not making a motion to change it tonight because it's not something that's that timely, but I wanted to bring it to you tonight, let you know about it, then we'll make them, we'll ask for a motion to change it. But we had President's Day, well, basically we had the 9th of February and the 12th of February as a work day, non-work day. We had those set up to be around President's Day. Well, guess what? President's Day is the 16th. So we're just asking to shift those things a week, where it gives our families opportunity to be away for President's Day if they want to, and it all works the same for us as a district. We still have the same number of work days, same number of days off. And by the way, this came up in conversation, and we're not bringing this to you as a proposal, but I'm sure you've heard August the 21st, the big day where the whole place is going to go dark. You know,
We are not going to have a total eclipse.
there was a lot of talk through the DPPs throughout the districts and all talking about, are you going to close? Are you going to close for that day? And Hardin County actually is, and then some, I don't blame them, around Bowling Green and stuff are going to, but we as a district didn't feel like it was, you know, so we talked to the principals and told them that we thought it would be a good day to offer Educational Enhancement Day if a family wants to take their kids to observe it, you know, wants to allow that to happen, then that would still then count for attendance and it wouldn't count against the child. So just letting you know that we did have that conversation in case you have somebody ask you about it. Why aren't we closed on the 21st of August? So
Are we providing glasses to the schools?
maybe we should have thought about that. Some of the schools actually are. Some of the districts actually
Right.
are. I don't know if did we get any ordered directors, do you know? We got some ordered?
We've ordered for elementary.
Okay, I didn't know for 100%. I know we've talked about.
Not all elementaries have ordered, but I know 2 elementaries at this time have ordered and have planned activities planned. I don't know if they're going to pass the glasses down and do different things, I don't know, but I know it's not a school-wide order, but there's several glasses ordered.
So I'll bring to you at the regular meeting, just shift those days, and that's all I have, unless you have anything else. Now that is, thank goodness, that's all of our main policy changes or anything that we have for the year. I'll bring a few smaller ones. We got a couple adjustments we need to make to a couple of procedures, but I'll bring those to you, and we'll have them knocked out for the year. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and then next up is our superintendent selection process. So, putting this on the agenda, because this is something that we're kind of under a time constraint with getting this process kind of rolling. So we need a little direction, a little help here on how we need to get this facilitated and get this moving.
You know, I might make there is a time element to this, obviously. I may make a recommendation to you all in that it might be best simply for the board to take a little bit of time to step back from this process and regroup a little bit and get into this in a little bit. I mean, it's not that you have to start it in the next few weeks or anything like that, but you do have elements that you need to do in this. But you have in that right there, and you can read off what the thing says right there, that, but I would allow yourselves to breathe a little bit and then get into this process.
But this says that we have to have the committee put together by September 1st.
That's correct.
But it doesn't say we have to have a superintendent.
No, we just have to
No,
do
we
the
just have to have
committee.
the committee.
Right.
That's what
So
I
that's
mean,
what-
you
yes.
I would suggest, and I think Terry has something that he would like to comment on that.
Well, you just probably need to get a motion to allow him to set up these elections for these folks, because you have to have the committee in place
By
in 30
September
days.
1st. Yeah, and
So
that's
you
what
probably
I'm
need to
concerned
get
about.
him
Yes,
started.
and we can do
Yeah.
that, that's not a thing, but from that point on, then you have time to step back
Right.
and look at it and do what you need to do. Having the committee will not be any problem, and I will work with Mr. Gohagan and Chip, and we'll get that process started whenever you direct us to do so.
Okay, and I think it probably is important just on a public platform, just to kind of say what's required, as far as
It is.
this committee is encompassed. So with that, so the law says that the following must be a part of the screening committee. We need 2 teachers that are elected by teachers in the district. We need 1 board member appointed by the board chair. We need 1 principal elected by principals in the district. We need 1 parent elected by the presidents of the PTOs of the schools in the district. And we need 1 classified employee elected by the classified employees in the district. So I guess what we just need to know is to get that part of it rolling. Yeah.
Do so.
Okay.
What is our role? How do we, I know I've been approached by several people who are very interested in being on the committee. So do those people, how do they get their name on the ballot? Be it a teacher, I mean, I understand the principals, we have 11 principals or however many, all their names go on there, great. But we have hundreds of teachers, hundreds of classified. How do the ballots get put together?
Well,
I understand that.
there's not a one set policy that has to be done this way. What has traditionally taken place is that if a teacher wanted to serve on that, they would let the principal know or whoever would know, and we will have somebody designated here in the central office to collect that data, and everybody that would like to be included would be then included in the ballot, and then when it goes out to, we'll just say teachers, we're talking about teachers here, it would go out to all the teachers in the district, and the teachers would select from the ones who have indicated that they will do. And obviously, we have to communicate with the principals, so they can communicate with their staff in a staff meeting, so they'll be told how this process is going to work. It'd be the same thing with classified and stuff.
So is it acceptable if people have expressed interest to one of us that they would like to be on the committee? Can we then give their names too, or do they need to redo that?
If a citizen wants to, what are you saying?
No,
I have two parents and I have a classified employee who have, well, the classified employee is also a parent, that's another, but have come to me and said, if there's going to be a committee, we assume there is, I'd really like to be on it.
The parents need to go through the PTO
yeah, it's-
Okay.
in their district. Classified, probably Tom needs to say, if you all give him the.
Yeah. There's not, like I said, if they come to you and say, I'd like to be on it, we'll include them in the list.
Right, they don't get an automatic spot,
No,
I mean, they get on the ballot.
They get on the ballot.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. Do all of the schools have a PTO?
We have PTA at Boston, but I'm
Well,
assuming
same
we
thing. I
mean
mean, it's
slash
different,
PTO,
I
PTA.
think all of them.
All of the schools have a PTO?
Early Learning Center.
We do not.
They don't, not all.
Nelson County doesn't have one.
I was gonna say Nelson County didn't have one when I
But we can also work through the site-based councils,
Okay.
and they do, everyone does have site-based councils. So
Yes.
we can do that too.
So then, another question. Is the committee just limited to these folks right here, or can we broaden that committee to say we want? It's limited. Okay.
And what percent of our school district is minorities?
Right,
Because if we don't
because
have
that's
8%,
Right.
if we have 8% minorities or greater, we need a minority representative. If
Robin?
if it's not elected, then we have to appoint one.
Go back to CSIP, state report. We're going to be close to that, maybe.
Well, we're gonna need to know,
Close to
because-
that. I'd have to look at it, it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's
I
8.
think I was thinking about 6, maybe 7%, but it's going to be close to that number.
It'd probably be a good idea just to do it.
Well, if we do not have at least 8%, it said that we could, if we do have 8%, we have to have minority.
That's correct.
But it does not define minority.
No.
We get to do that.
Okay, that was my question, is how do we define minority? Okay,
And that has to be elected by parents also.
right, so before, what I wanted to make sure is before we got running down this road, that if we need a minority, if we have to do this, we need to know if we need it before the PTOs or whomever vote on the parents.
Exactly right.
So we see who's on the ballot.
That's correct.
And I will get that information from Bobby, and he can look it up, and we'll see what exactly our percentage is.
So then, our game plan is, and I guess tonight, we're gonna have to make a motion to allow you to begin this process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then, okay, so that decision was not on the agenda. Are we still allowed to do that?
Well, you can do that,
tonight?
you can actually do it at the regular schedule,
meeting?
regular meeting.
You can do it either way, but obviously you're on the agenda discussing that, but if you want to wait till then, we've got time to do it. And the other thing, you may want to consider whether you all want to hire somebody to be a search process, school board association or whatever, you all want to. You may want to put that on and talk about it.
Yeah.
If we can talk about
Can we
that
talk
next
about
time.
it? Yeah, can we talk about the next meeting?
Talk about it, and we have time.
Yes, we
If
have
we
time.
establish the committee, I'm not comfortable stating we need to spend district money to hire someone to help us do this
No.
before, when I'm not the one hiring it. This committee is going to be, do they need help? It should
No,
be.
the committee doesn't actually.
They recommend to us.
Right.
They
You
recommend to us.
You all will hire.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's, when it gets into personnel, that's your all's, the main
Go,
areas,
yes.
that's your, so you will actually hire. What they will do is take the applications and go through it and make recommendations to you all.
but they would be the ones who would need who may determine they want the assistance or need it.
Well, they can tell you all that, but you have to make that decision.
Yeah, you're not obligated by statute to even accept the names that they give you.
Yes.
You have some autonomy there, unfortunately, and that is correct. Because there have been many school boards who have hired people that totally were not on the list that were given them over
Well,
the
it's not a
years.
community decision.
I know.
Yeah. I didn't say it was good practices.
Okay.
I just simply said it happens.
You didn't say I had to like it.
No, I didn't say that that's the good practice policy. I simply say it happens
Yeah.
quite a bit. Probably, Mr. Cohagen can tell you, it probably happens a lot more than you think.
Right.
I think you ought to, at the next meeting, I think you ought to entertain talking about not only the search committee, but at least think about what it would cost to hire one of these other organizations to send you names to work with the search committee.
Well, and
I don't know what it costs.
Yeah, well, and I have been emailed a couple of, and they're out of town.
Unsolicited.
Yeah.
Yes, very unsolicited.
Yeah.
What I thought,
I just
yeah.
randomly send you,
Well,
not.
your all's professional organization, Kentucky School Board Association.
Has one.
Has one, and it's very reliable and,
We don't need-
and stuff, but that's
We don't need
entirely up to you all.
Massachusetts telling us.
How, yeah.
You know, Wyoming and, and I go, well, what's in Wyoming? You know what I mean? I go, no.
So, would we need to, I guess one of us would need to contact KSBA then and just kind of get some
Well,
information? Or
Here's what I would suggest to you all is that, I'll start getting the structure ready to go to do all of this. You vote on this at the regular scheduled meeting. We'll put the procedures into effect as soon as you all vote on it, and we'll start getting the committee people back to you all, and then we'll have those people chosen by the time we have the next working session in September, and you all will know who's on that committee. And from that point on, then you have time to make that decision on Kentucky School Board Association. I would say as chairperson, it would be more than professional for you to contact the KSBA and find out what the procedures are and what services they offer to you as a board.
And
I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm on the board, so I can do that for us.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is a team effort here, so.
Yeah, I'm on the board, and so we meet every other month practically, so I can get that for you this in 2 other weeks.
Yeah, and then you have that information, and there are, like you said, private firms who
Yeah.
offer those services to you, but remember the KSBA represents you all,
That's right.
so it's a very reliable group.
Okay.
All right, very good. Anything else on that? No? Okay. All right, so then next up, we're going to talk about, let's see, the superintendent report.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Oh.
Just a few things to let you all know what we've been doing the last few days. Been pretty busy. It's been interesting, to say the least, but following your all's charge, we've been concentrating on getting school started. Making sure that the buildings, the structure is ready to go, that we have as many teachers hired as we can, that we get everything ready to go, so on on August the 9th, when our students roll in, that we're ready to go. And we're everything that we can possibly be ready is ready, and we're going. So that's been our emphasis on what we're doing as far as that's concerned, and staff's been wonderful. I can't ask for a more professional group to work with here in the central office. I've met with just about all the principals also. I've been to every school except New Haven, and the only reason I haven't been there because he's been in some trainings, and I'm going at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I've been to some of the open houses at Boston, at Nelson County High School last night. Went over to Horizons for a little bit today, and missed a couple because of this meeting, but there's a couple tomorrow night that I'll be hitting, and some more on Monday. So most of those will be hit. One of the changes that we're doing a little differently is opening day for staff is on Monday. Traditionally, they've met all together as a big group at the high school and been there. Well, I had requests, and we're going to allow certified staff to be in their buildings, working, getting prepared for school to start. And at the very first thing in the morning, I'm going to meet with classified staff, and then they have some trainings that they'll do. And then I'm going out to every building during Monday and meet with the staff in their building for a few minutes and talk to them as a whole about getting prepared to go to school. So we'll take care of that. And I think that's been universally accepted by at least the school staff likes that and stuff. So I think it would be a good thing.
I think they were hoping that we would all get together and that was mentioned today for our usual and let you come but as long as you're going to every one of them.
Yeah, gonna hit every one of them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Another thing that we are doing is one of the things that I felt like that we needed to change here was develop a new working structure that was better for operations here within the central office staff. And basically, it had been what I call an inverted T, one layer down and everybody answer to the superintendent. We're going to put it more into a pyramid structure, so we have structure and who answers to who's responsible for what, and make it a little more clear on those responsibilities and things. With that, we'll be rewriting all the new job descriptions with that, because job descriptions, the old job descriptions that Mr. Morris and I have been looking at, all have the answer to the superintendent. And they're going to be some going to be answering to other people. So, so instead of the DPP, since Robbie's here, answering to whoever he did answer to, that he may be answering to, instead of answering to the superintendent, he may be answering to Mr. Hawkinsmith or whoever. So we'll see how that goes. So that's one of the things that we're working on, and I think that'll be helpful. And if you all call and say who's responsible for this, we'll have a better answer to tell you who is. The other thing is, met with the senior staff yesterday, and we talked a little bit. Our main emphasis this year, as long as I'm here, we're going to be dealing with leadership and communications. We're going to try to work real hard at seeing these things brought forth and spread throughout the district, from not only from my position as superintendent down to the custodian level. And we want everyone to be able to communicate what we're doing and why we're doing it, and try to get everybody on the same page and stuff. So we'll be working hard with that and stuff. And the other thing is that you see Mr. Blair here and everything, but we're going to be, I've asked Mr. Hawkinsmith, and then I've met with talked to both the sheriff and Mr. Marksberry, the chief of police, about restarting the SRO program. It is, and don't get me wrong, I don't think we have to have a armed guard in the school. That's not what I'm talking about. The SRO program serves many, many purposes as far as in dealing with the, drug education and all kinds of other things here. And there's nothing wrong with seeing a strong presence in our schools. The kids learn to respect police officers and what they stand for and what they work for. So I'm going to be trying very hard over the time, and Tim's been very helpful in meeting with and talking with some of our community leaders to get this SRO program back going. And we're looking at all of our options and that, and we'll work on that. I don't know how quick Commonwealth Attorney is going to allow us to get this going, but we're going to get this going as quick as we can and stuff. So that's my report.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
And we do need to go to church. We do need to go to it.
We do need to go to executive session? Okay. All right. So then, at this point, any guest comments? Don't even hear any crickets. Okay. All right, then I need a motion to adjourn regular session.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then I need a motion to convene an executive session.
Motion?
Ms. Berry made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Norman second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.